Good morning, dear students. Welcome to this online live webinar classes, which is provided by Telangana Residential Educational Society. Uh, First of all, I would like to thank our secretary, sir, for providing this opportunity to all the first year students and to all the newcomers who have joined recently to the society. I also congratulate you for joining this prestigious institutions. Okay, dear students, without taking much of your time, let us start the zoology class. So the first unit of your zoology syllabus is diversity of living world. Some of the chapters, some of the topics of this unit has been deleted by Board of Intermediate, but I will deal with whatever the rest of the topics which are included in your syllabus for this year. Okay, this is your textbook and this is the first chapter, the first unit that we are going to learn. What we are going to learn from this chapter? Diversity of living world. In this chapter, we are going to learn about what is life. Okay, and we are going to learn about the characteristics of life. What are the basic characteristics that are required for a life? Next, the meaning of biology and meaning of zoology and also the branches of zoology. Then we will learn about the fundamental uniformity which is present among all the living creatures. First of all, what is life? Let me explain you what it is. It is the basic property of living things. Now comes the question, what is meant by living things, isn't it? So there are two kinds of things generally in the universe, that is non-living things and living things, right? And how do you differentiate between non-living things and living things? Because living things has certain characteristics and non-living things have some other characteristics. So we have to know what are those important characteristics that are expressed by, that are exhibited by the living creatures. That is what we are going to learn from this chapter. What are the characteristics of life? The next point is, what is biology? You have already studied about it. From last 3 years, you have been studying from 8th, 9th, 10th, and now you are 11th class. Biology means study of living things, isn't it? And living things are again two types, basically plants and animals, and there are bacteria and protista, manira also. Studying about all these plants and animals and their relation to the environment and their physiology is called as biology. Okay, and there is a fundamental uniformity in all the living creatures. What is meant by this? That means plants are also living things, animals are also living things, we are also living things, isn't it? So there is a uniformity between all the living creatures. What is that what is that fundamental uniformity? It is present in the cellular level. When you go through the cells and the study of cells, then you will understand the similarities between plant cell and animal cell, isn't it? You have studied the differences of plant cell and animal cell, but there are more similarities than the differences, isn't it? Let's see what is life. Here you can see the organization of life. On slide you can see different pictures, and there you can see the organization of life. What we are made up of is given there. Basically, at cellular level, all living creatures are made up of atoms. Okay, and when atoms are grouped together, they make up a molecule. Right? A group of atoms can also be called as a molecule. And in living organisms, there are biomolecules. Okay, these biomolecules are nothing but carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, vitamins, minerals. This is what we are all made up of, isn't it? So these molecules make up a cell organelles. Cell organelles means you already studied in the 9th class. Cell contain different organelles inside, isn't it? Those are cell organelles. Cell organelles together make up a cell. It is a structural and functional unit of life. You have also studied that all the living creatures are made up of brick-like structures, isn't it? However, the building is made up of bricks, Human beings, plants, animals, living creatures, all of them are made up of tiny cells in there. Tiny cells, they are all grouped together. When cells group together, carry out one particular function, they are called as tissues. Here I have mentioned here. There are different kinds of tissues in the body, like bone tissue, nervous tissue, right? Muscular tissue. These are all are the types of tissue. And these tissues make up an organ. What is meant by an organ? So in 10th class, you have studied about it. There are two kinds of organs in the body. Organ means nothing but a part of the body, right? So there are two kinds of parts like internal organs and external organs. Internal organs means the parts, body parts which present inside, not appear to the outside. And external organs means which you can see from the outside. Internal organs are examples like bones, lungs, heart, brain, okay, intestine, liver, pancreas. These are all are internal organs present inside. And these organs are basically made up of tissues. Tissues made up of cells. And when group of organs coordinated together and carrying out a particular function, they are called as an organ system. Right? There are different systems in the body: digestive system, circulatory system, respiratory system, nervous system. There are systems in the body. They all make up a complete organism. Not only in the human being, all the living creatures have systems in the body, all animals basically. So these systems are basically made up of different organs which are connected together. If you take digestive system as example here, mouth, esophagus, stomach, liver, large intestine, small intestine, rectum, anus. These are the different organs present in the organ system. You might have understood now that organ system is made up of different organs. Organ system make up an organism. What is meant by this? Organism means nothing but a living creature. A human being is also one of the organism. All animals. Animal also you can take as an example of organism. When organisms, similar organisms, when they are grouped together and they are able to reproduce, those kind of organisms, if they got together, that's called a population. Population is nothing but like individuals or like organisms. If they are grouped together, that's called population. Suppose here you can see the elephant population, human beings population is there, dogs population, right? Plants population, eucalyptus trees are there, eucalyptus trees population, mango trees population. So it is nothing but the population means the group of similar species got together and living in a particular area. When different kinds of species are living together, that's called a community. Here on the picture you can see there is a tree which is a species, and there is a rabbit here, there is a bird, there is an elephant. So the different kinds of species, different kinds of animals are living together in one particular environment. It's called community. And when different kinds of communities got together, they make up an ecosystem. What are the different kinds of community? You can take example of different populations got together, and terrestrial community, aquatic community, they are all different communities live together. They make up an ecosystem completely. Eco means the home, isn't it? So ecosystems make up a biosphere, right? Marine ecosystem is there, desert ecosystem is there, and aquatic ecosystem. There are different kinds of ecosystems as well. In the last chapter called ecology, we will study about this ecosystem in further. Okay. Let's see what are the other characteristics of life. See the characteristics of life, and basically all living creatures are made up of cells, and these cells are basically two types. They are prokaryotes and eukaryotes. On the slide you can see prokaryotes and eukaryotes. I mentioned here. What is meant by prokaryote and eukaryote? Let me tell you, suppose this is one kind of cell and this is another kind of cell. If the genetic material inside the cell is floating in the cytoplasm, if the genetic material is floating in the cytoplasm, that kind of cell is called as prokaryote, which does not have a distinct nuclear membrane. But in eukaryotes, you can find a distinct membrane, and inside of membrane, there will be the genetic material. Okay, so they are called as eukaryotes. Karyon means nothing but a nucleus. Prokaryote means the older one, and eukaryote means which is developed one. Prokaryote means it does not have any nuclear membrane, and eukaryote means it has a nuclear membrane, and nucleus is very distinct in its structure. Let's learn further about the characteristics of life. So complexity in organism, just now I told, atoms, biomolecules, cells, tissues, organs, organ system. And another characteristics of life is sensitivity to environment. Here you can see in the down, I have mentioned another point, sensitivity or response to environment. What happens when there is a high temperature outside? What do? You will go to the shelter and you will live there. Animals also the same. If the temperature is very high, they find the shelter and they live under the tree. If the temperature is so cold, if the temperature is so less and if it is so cold, what do? Some animals go into burrows, live under the earth, isn't it? They go into the burrows and live there. That is one kind of response that they are showing to the temperature. Right? Living things show response to the stimulus. Right? Living things show response to the light also. In the 10th class, you have studied that phototropism and geotropism. Phototropism means plants grow towards the light, isn't it? So phototropism, and geotropism means under the earth they will attract to the gravity, isn't it? So these kind of responses are shown by living things only. If you take a rock or a stone, does it show any response to temperature or light or anything? It does not show any response, but we, the living things, plants also show the same response to the stimulus that we get from the external environment. Let's learn further about the characteristics of life. Next point is utilization of energy. Does stone or any non-living particle, plastic or iron, do they require any energy for living? But we human beings and plants, we require energy. Why do we need? Because for the metabolic reactions to happen inside the body. Right? Metabolic activities means all the biochemical activities that take place in the body. In 10th class, you studied about all the organ systems. In the organ system, in every organ system, there is some process. Those processes are called as biochemical processes. They are basically called as metabolic activities. So metabolism is there in the body and it requires energy. And metabolic activities are classified into anabolic reactions and catabolic reactions. Anabolic reaction means the reactions which make up an substance. Okay, that's called anabolic. Photosynthesis is a kind of an anabolic reaction where plants utilize carbon dioxide, light, and they convert it to the glucose, which is a new substance. They form something. That's why it is called anabolic reaction. Catabolic reactions means the reactions which involved in the breaking down of substances for the release of energy. Right? Respiration is one kind of a catabolic reaction. Respiration means not just a breathing. Respiration actually means to release the energy, to break down the food molecules by the process of oxidation and releasing the energy. Another very important characteristics of life is reproduction. If there is no reproduction, what happens? By the end of 100 years, there will be no animal you can see on this world. Because Every organism produces a new organism. Human beings produce human beings. Dogs produce their offsprings, right? Plants produce their new plants by the help of seeds. So plants and animals, they show reproduction. It is called as biogenesis. That means from a living thing, another living thing is getting formed. It's called biogenesis. And reproduction is two types, asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, only one individual is involved. There is no gamete involved, right? And in sexual reproduction, there are two gametes involved, male gamete and female gamete. Plants and animals both carry out this sexual and asexual reproduction. But the higher animals exhibit sexual reproduction. Okay. Next, homeostasis. What is meant by this homeostasis? We have a temperature in the body which is 37 degrees, right? So we have all water content in the body which is 70%. So all the substances present in the body should be in a very balanced manner. If there is more water in the body, then our cells will swell. Eventually we may die. If there is high temperature in the body, it's called fever. We will be attacked by the heat stress. If it is very cold, we will attack by the cold stress. So temperature should be balanced. It should be in a proper manner. The same way mineral content, osmoregulation also should be there in the body. So it is the dynamic consistency of the internal environment, right? So this balancing mechanism is called as homeostasis. Okay. There is a homeostasis of temperature, minerals, osmoregulations, everything in the body. We will learn about this in the further classes. Next, evolution. All living things will evolve. They will make new individuals which are different from the past individuals. This is called as variation. Okay. We look different from our mother and father. Our children also look different from us, isn't it? So there are variations basically in the living creatures. These variations eventually leads to speciation. That's why there are thousands of species around us. And there is a term called recombinations. You will learn about this recombination in the genetics chapter. You might have learned that the meiosis and mitosis processes are there, and the meiosis process contain exchange of genetic material where the recombination is formed. Next characteristic of life is senescence and mortality. Can we live for 1,000 years? Can any other plant or animal live for 1,000 crores of years? No. All living things have certain age limit. Okay, this is called senescence. We are all mortal. That means one day we will definitely be expired. Okay, this is called senescence and mortality. But when you take stone or when you take plastic or iron, they have no death, isn't it? They are immortal. But we, human beings and all the plants and animals are mortal. We have death. So process of aging is present and living things are mortal. Hope you have understood all these points. Let's go to the next slide. Living things, here in the picture you can see living things exhibit growth, they grow and they reproduce, they show heredity. That means they pass on the characteristics from one generation to another generation. They exhibit homeostasis, right? And there is a metabolic activity happening in the body, and all living things are made up of cells. It is a cellular structure. Next, they respond to the environment according to the stimulus that we receive. Next, what is zoology? Means the study of living things. Just now I have discussed about it. And what is zoology? It is a part of biology. It is a part of biological science that deals with the study of various aspects of animals, starting from sponges to mammals. Right? Sponges, you know about it. They are very primitive organisms and very lower organisms, sponges. And from sponges to all the mammals, all animals. If we are studying about all the animals, it's called zoology. We study about the internal environment and their behavior also. What are the branches of zoology which are related to zoology? Let's see the branches. First is taxonomy. Taxonomy means the practice of classification. So since there are thousands of types of animals and species, we must be able to identify them particularly. For this, we need classification. The taxonomy, the term is given by the scientist called D. Condon. Scientist called D. Condon given the term. And morphology means morphos means nothing but the external features. So morphology means the study of external and internal features of an organism. Morphology also contain two branches called anatomy and histology. Anatomy means study of internal organs is called anatomy, and histology means study of tissues. Okay, study of tissues. Remember these words because they are important for your NEET exam. Next is cytology. Cytus means nothing but a cell. So study of cells and cell organelles and their biological activities is called as cytology. Cytology means study of cells. I repeat. Next, taxonomy, morphology and cytology. Let's see some other branches of zoology. Physiology means study of different body function and the processes. Second year zoology has this physiology most of the part, and in 10th class also you studied about all the organ systems existing in the body and how do they function. So that is called the physiology. Next, embryology is also called as developmental biology. It explains about the development of a zygote into the fetus. What is this zygote and fetus? In the womb of a mother, primarily forming structure is called as zygote. After sexual reproduction, after fertilization, zygote will be formed. That zygote converts into morula, then blastula, then gastrula. Finally, it will convert into a baby. So in the complete gestation period of 9 months, it is completely evolves, completely develops and becomes a new individual. So that is called as embryology, study of development of any organism. Next, evolution. Evolution means, just now I said, it is nothing but the change in the organisms. So new formation of new species is called as evolution. It tells about the origin of life, how the life came into existence, how these many species are there in the planet and how they came into existence. There are different kinds of theories in the evolution. The term evolution is given by the scientist called Herbert Spencer. Remember this word. Next, paleontology. It means the study of fossilized remains of organisms. Now we are able to say that some millions of years ago, there were dinosaurs. Who watched them? Who seen them? Nobody has seen, but we have evidences for their existence. We could imagine them that they are very large in size, isn't it? How? Because we have found the bones of them and we have calculated the size and we are able to say that there were the animals, there are monsters millions of years ago. So it is only possible with the study called paleontology, where we study the fossilized remains of the organisms. Next, ecology means study of organisms in relation to their environment. The term ecology is given by Ernest Haeckel. Okay, Ernest Haeckel, remember the name. Next, genetics. The study of inheritance is called as genetics. The term genetics is given by Bateson. Study of genes, study of genetic material is also called genetics. There are, when you go to the cellular level, there is nucleus, there are chromosomes, there is DNA, there is RNA, there is transcription, translation, recombinations, and all these processes comes under the learning of genetics. You will learn about this chapter in the further classes. Next, ethology means study of behavior of animals. How animals behave whenever they face the situations in the environment. Suppose if they need food, how do they find their food? If they want to in the cold winter, where do they live? In the hot summer, how do they behave? So it is the study of behavior of animals. It's called ethology. Okay, hope you have understood all these terms related to the branches of zoology. Let's learn the classification of biology. So the taxonomy, the term is given by D. Condol, just now I have told, but the father of taxonomy is Carolus Linnaeus. Right? Carolus Linnaeus is the father of taxonomy, and he given the two kingdom classification. He has classified all the organisms on this planet into two categories. One is Plantae, another is Animalia. He told that there are plants and animals, that's all. But further, some other scientists came in and they said that there are three kingdoms, right? By Ernest Haeckel has proposed this three kingdom classification, where he has proposed three kingdoms. One is Protista, another Plantae, and third is Animalia. And Copeland is a scientist. He included another kingdom to the three kingdoms, that is Monera. So he said there are four kingdoms: Monera, Protista, Plantae, and Animalia. Then comes the five kingdom classification, and most successful and most approved classification. It is Whittaker's classification. He classified into five kingdoms. The five kingdoms are Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. All the five kingdoms. Next, there comes the sixth kingdom classification given by Carl Woese, but he classified all these kingdoms into three domains. Under three domains, he kept all these six kingdoms. First domain is Archaea, and second domain is Bacteria, and third kingdom is Eukarya. You can see you can see it below what are those six kingdoms. Archaebacteria comes under the Archaea, Eubacteria comes under the Bacteria, and Eukarya further divided into Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. Right? So I repeat again, two kingdom classification given by Carolus Linnaeus, three kingdom classification by Ernest Haeckel, four kingdom classification by Copeland, five kingdom classification by R.H. Whittaker, six kingdom classification by Carl Woese, and he is also the scientist of three domain, who introduced three domains. Right? Let's learn further. Hope you have understood about this classification, types of classification. Now let's see what is the hierarchy in the classification. In the classification, we come from top to bottom, right? Whenever you are coming to the bottom, you will find a particular organism. But when you are going to the top, we consider all the animals into. Suppose we are all animals. The human being also comes under the Animalia. But basically, we are related to Homo sapiens. That means we are species called Homo sapiens, isn't it? So that is how the hierarchy is created. You can see in the hierarchy, the top one is life. The top one is life, and second one is domain. Just now I told we come under the domain called Eukarya. Human beings come under a domain called Eukarya, and human beings comes under the kingdom Animalia, and human beings comes under the phylum Chordata, and our class is Mammalia. Our order is primates, our family is Hominidae, and our genus is Homo, and sapiens is our species. So this is how we can do the hierarchy of the classification. See here, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. In NEET exam, mostly they give an order. They will They give the options and they tell you to find out to keep it in a proper order. So classification of human beings is Animalia, Chordata, then comes Mammalia, primates, Hominidae, Homo and Sapiens. Hope you have understood about this hierarchy in the classification. Next, let's learn about the species concept. What is meant by species? Right? The term species is given by the scientist John Ray in his book Historia Generalis Plantarum. Right? The term is given by the scientist called John Ray. I repeat. Next, definition of species is it is a group of interbreeding group of similar individuals sharing common gene pool and producing fertile offsprings. Okay? Interbreeding group means they must be able to do sexual reproduction together, and they are all similar individuals and sharing common gene pool. Their genetic material should also be so similar, and by the reproduction process they must be able to produce a fertile offspring, okay, which can also be reproduced and which can also be able to produce a new individual. Suppose when we do crossing between mule and hen, between the horse and the donkey, we find this mule and henny, and they are all infertile. These two are different species. That's why an infertile organism is took birth. Next, they became popular by the book called Origin of Species, which is written by Charles Darwin, and he is father of evolution. What is species, and why species? Why do we need to learn about a particular species? Because they are a breeding unit. That means they are reproductively isolated, isn't it? And they share same ecological niche. So it is also called as an ecological unit. Suppose if you take fishes as example, all fishes live in the water. They are all aquatic, isn't it? Monkeys, they are arboreal. They live on trees. So like that, animals live on one particular niche, and their niche means nothing but the function of organism in an ecosystem. So they perform similar function. Their role is also similar. Next, shows similarity in its karyotype. So hence they are called as a genetic unit. They have similar structure and functions. Hence they are also called as an evolutionary unit. Dear students, hope you have understood. This is the species concept. I repeat the definition again. It is an interbreeding group of similar individuals sharing common gene pool and producing a fertile offsprings. Next, let's see Animalia classification. In Animalia further classified into prokaryota and eukaryota. Under the prokaryota, what comes? Bacteria. We study about the bacteria, archaea, and in the eukaryota, we studied about the plantae, protista, fungi, and animalia. Okay, so let's learn deep about this animal classification. Classification of Animalia. You can see the slide there. Animalia, basically metazoa, it is also called as metazoa, divided into two subkingdoms, and they are parazoa and eumetazoa. These two subkingdoms are classified on the basis of level of organism, because parazoa means porifera is cellular, it has a cellular organization. There is absence of tissues and organs. The eumetazoa further divided into two grades, that is radiata and bilateria. Radiata also they are diploblastic animals, and bilateria are triploblastic animals. This is on the basis of the symmetry of the body and layers of the body. Organisms contain three layers. They are endoderm, ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. But in some organisms, in lower organisms, there are only two layers, ectoderm and endoderm. There is no mesoderm. So, so if there are two layers in the body and if they exhibit radial symmetry, they come under this radiata. Examples are Cnidaria and Ctenophora. And bilateral are nothing but they perform bilateral symmetry. I will explain you what is meant by this bilateral symmetry in the next slide. They are again further classified into protostomia and deuterostomia. Protostomia further divided into acoelomata, which has no coelom. Coelom means the body cavity, and pseudocoelomata and schizocoelomata. Under pseudocoelomata, we find ringworms, roundworms, and under schizocoelomata, we find Annelida, Arthropoda, and mollusca. Under the deuterostomia, there are they are also called as enterocoeloms. They have echinodermata, hemichordata, and chordata. You might be not familiar with all these words. I will explain you in the further slide about what is this three layers and what are these body cavity and everything. Let's know about the types of symmetry. Generally, there are three types. Particularly, there are different types, but generally we consider animals into asymmetrical, which has no symmetry. We cannot find a similar individual from any plane of an organism. From the central axis, if you take any plane, we cannot find a similar individual. This is different and this half is different. And the other one is a radial symmetry. From the central axis, from any plane, you can cut from any plane, you find a similar individual. Right? They are similar two halves, hence they are called as radial symmetry. And bilateral symmetry is they have only one single plane from the central axis by which they can give two similar halves. Okay, this is called bilateral symmetry. Even human beings are also comes under the bilaterally symmetrical animal. If you take this section, what I am doing on the screen, you cannot find similar individuals. Similar halves you cannot find. That's why they are bilaterally symmetrical. Next, let's learn about types of animals according to the coelom. Coelom means nothing but the body cavity. Here in the picture you can see, the three layers of the animals. First layer is ectoderm, second layer and middle layer is called mesoderm, and the third layer, which is completely inside, is called as endoderm. Right? So there are three layers, and at the mesodermal layers, between mesoderm again divided into two types, visceral mesoderm and parietal mesoderm. Between these two mesoderms, if there is a coelom, if there is a body cavity, it's called coelom. Okay. The first type is a coelom. Coelom means acoelomata. Acoelomata means there is no body cavity. So body cavity is absent. Example, platyhelminthes. This kind of body plan is called as solid body plan. The next is pseudocoelomate, which means they have a false body cavity. It is not a true coelom since it is not lined by mesodermal epithelial layers. So example is ash helminthes. Okay, the platyhelminthes. It is also called as nematohelminthes. In the next chapter, you will learn about all this. Next, schizocoelomata means it comes under the true coelom, but it is not formed by splitting of mesodermal cells, but it is formed by splitting of mesodermal cells into somatic and visceral mesoderms. Example, Annelida, Arthropoda, and mollusca. In schizocoelomata, the mesodermal cells are split and they form a cavity. So this is a false kind of cavity because a true cavity or enterocavity should be formed from the internal gut, from the pouches of the internal gut. But in schizocoelomata, mesodermal cells are split together and they make up a false coelom, which is also called schizocoelomata, since they are formed by the breaking of the cells. Next is enterocoelomata. Entero means nothing but it related to the gut. Related to the gut means nothing but the alimentary canal. So from the gut, if the pouches are raised and they form a coelom, they are called enterocoelom. Right? Here at the bottom I have given it's a true coelom formed by the formation of pouches from the archenteron. Archenteron means nothing but the primitive, the primary gut is also called as archenteron. Let's learn further, and before going to further, let me explain you again. Acoelomata, there is no coelom. Pseudocoelom means it's a false coelom, right? And schizocoelom means it is a true coelom but is made by splitting of mesodermal cells. And enterocoelom means it is formed by the pouches formed from the archenteron. So there are 4 kinds of animals basically. Let's learn further. Here you can see different kinds of coeloms. Pseudocoelom, right? It is present in the roundworms, and acoelom means there is no coelom at all in this body. Only endoderm, ectoderm, mesoderm are existing. And eucoelom, it has a coelom in the body. Let's learn further. Types according to the fate of blastopore. There are 2 kinds of animals according to the blastopore. The first is protostomia, and protostomia means embryonic blastopore develops into mouth. Right? In these animals, embryonic blastopore develops into mouth. What is meant by blastopore? After the fertilization, there will be the formation of zygote, and zygote converts into the morula. Morula converts into blastula, and blastula contain this blastopore. Here you can see the bunch of cells, and they have a slight opening that is called a blastopore. If the blastopore is the development of the embryo, if it is converting into mouth, it is called as protostomia. Okay. Next, deuterostomia. Deuterostomia means, wait, let me explain you about deuterostomia. In the deuterostomia animals, what happened? Blastopore converts into anus and mouth is formed later. Right? Here in the diagram, you can see. Let's learn further about further topics in the next class. What we have learned so far, let's see fastly. I will recap. We have learned characteristics of life, organization of life, definition of biology and zoology, branches of zoology, biological classification, hierarchy of classification, species concept, body cavity and their types. This is what we have learned. Hope you have understood this class. Thank you so much. This is Rajkumar, PGT Zoology, signing off. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Rajkumar sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam. Thank you.